Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, according to a recent newspaper report, pepper spray has been approved for use as a safety device in Trinidad. But what of Jamaica, especially in light of our high crime rate? Is a canister of pepper spray a good enough safety device for the average Jamaican? Is it even worth considering? Well, to discuss this and other related issues, we have online so far Mr. Andre Earl, attorney at law. Good morning, Mr. Earl.
Good morning, Dr. Toussaint. How are you?
I am doing well, and you?
Giving thanks. Doing well myself.
Great, great. We are expected to be joined, as you would know, by a security expert, and we hope that will come. He will come on momentarily.
All right.
Now, Mr. Earl, let me begin by asking, what does the law of the land state in regards to the use of pepper sprays, and what are the penalties therein?
All right. First, I think we should start with what is pepper spray? What is it made of? What is the effect of pepper spray?
All right.
Now, pepper spray is a compound containing something called capsicum.
Say it again?
Capsicum, CAPSICUM. And this is a compound which is found in hot peppers, responsible for that burning sensation. The effects of which are, if used, as far as the eyes are concerned, there may be tearing, production of a lot of tears, burning, involuntary closing, and the eyes can be bloodshot for up to an hour. In terms of the nose, special burning, irritation, and excessive discharge of mucus. Mouth, specifically accelerated saliva secretion. Central nervous system, headache, dizziness, extreme general discomfort. Exposed skin, one may have burning and stinging on the surface based on the nerve endings. The throat, there may be swelling of the throat lining, and that restricts the airway, causing uncontrollable gasping and gagging. That's very critical, especially as it relates to asthmatics or anybody else who is predisposed to any medical conditions affecting their respiratory system. So that is very important. And then the chest, tightening of the upper respiratory system and irrepressible coughing. So that's what it is we're talking about. Now, in terms of your question, in Jamaica, pepper spray is not legal. It is a banned substance. And there, in fact, it's interesting, there's a case called Future Services Limited and the Attorney General, in which the court had to consider pepper spray. It was decided in April 2011. And what had happened was that the members of staff of Future Services Limited had suffered a number of violent attacks, culminating in the murder of one of the security officers of that company by gunmen. And in an effort to protect the staff, the company sought to purchase pepper spray and make it available for them. And the question was whether or not they could legally import it. At the end of the day, the then Minister of National Security passed or promulgated a particular order, and the effect of that order was to make it clear that pepper spray is banned in Jamaica. So you can't legally, as a private citizen, bring in pepper spray. It's known as the Import Prohibition Miscellaneous Goods Order 2010, which has been gazetted. Now, interestingly enough, there is a dichotomy. Our law is incongruous. It is at conflict with itself. Because under the Offensive Weapons Prohibition Act of 2001, there's actually a provision that would seem to make pepper spray legal. Because
what does it say?
That law says that under Section 2, subsection 2, it defines an offensive weapon. Well, let me back up a little bit. Under Section 2, subsection 1, it says that an offensive weapon means any article made or adapted for use for causing injury to the person, or which is intended by the person having such article with him to cause such injury. That's what offensive weapon means. And there is a prohibition for having offensive weapons. But subsection 2 of section 2 of that act, the Offensive Weapons Prohibition Act, says, paragraph A of the definition of offensive weapon, in which, in subsection 1, does not include any of the following substances that a person has with him for personal protection, namely A, mace or pepper spray. So the section seems to be saying very clearly that it's not an offense if you have pepper spray or mace for your personal protection. And it goes on to say that a person shall not, without lawful authority or reasonable excuse, knowingly have with him in any public place any offensive weapon falling within paragraph A or B of the definition of offensive weapon. But remember, I just said that an exception is when the offensive weapon is used for his personal protection and mace or pepper spray is expressly excluded. But why do I say that there is this incongruence or this dichotomy? Because, believe it or not, spray is illegal under the Firearms Act. You heard me correct.
That's another aspect of the law?
Yes, you heard me correct. It sounds strange, Firearms Act, but it's under the Firearms Act, because under that act, restricted weapon means any weapon of whatever description or design which is adapted for the discharge of any noxious liquid, gas.
Hold it there, Mr. Earl. Hold it there. Very intriguing. We're going to take a break and be right back.
All right.
The Tampa Phoenix Vision Healthcare, your Ice Care Center, 65 Main Street, St. Anne's Bay and Champion Plaza, Falmouth, is 7:15.
Scotia Digital Saturdays is back. Come join us for a one-to-one session to learn how to use Scotia Online Banking, the Scotia app, and all the new features of our ABMs on February 27th and March 6th at the following branches: Port Antonio, Port Maria, St. Anne's Bay, Old Harbor, Christiana, Junction, Black River, Maypen, Santa Cruz, Spanish Town, Falmouth, Portmore. Learn how to save time and money banking online at Scotia Digital Saturdays.
Shake and go with true shake. Shake and go. Grab a true shake and go. When me have to put in the work, but I'm moving slow. Grab a true shake and go. School time and not joke time. Have to study hard, brain full time. Grab a true shake and go. When we up in the gym, we have to stay healthy and fit. Grab a true shake and go. Shake and go with True Shake. Packed with 9 grams of protein, 24 key vitamins and minerals to keep you going. Grab a true shake and go.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
My daughter calls me the
bestest dad ever.
And as her father, I have to live up to that. She looks to me for everything. But I have other responsibilities too. As a track coach, I have to guide my team to run on the track and not into trouble, cause plenty of that out there. My days don't stop, and neither can I. So I need something to take care of me while I take care of everybody else. That drink is Malta. And it tastes good too. Big up yourself, Malta.
You're full of life.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We are discussing the hot topic this morning in regards to the use of pepper spray as a safety device in Jamaica. And we have online, we now have online as well, Dr. Jason Mackay, criminologist and security expert of CEO Mackay Security. Good morning, Mr. Mackay.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
Good to have you. And of course, we had earlier on and still do Mr. Andre Earl, attorney at law. Mr. Earl,
good morning, my fellow Rabalak brother.
How are you doing? How's my former head boy doing?
I didn't want that to talk now in the ear. It's Rabalak business. Okay, let's continue with you, Mr. Earl. You're talking about the dichotomy in the law.
Yes. So you got the matter of the definition of the Offensive Weapons Prohibition Act, which makes an exception for mace or pepper spray if used for personal protection.
Mm-hmm.
But the Firearms Act says otherwise now. So the Firearms Act, under Section 20, subsection 1B, it is an offense to be in possession of restricted ammunition. Restricted ammunition is defined by Section 2 of the Firearms Act as ammunition which contains or is designed to contain any noxious liquid, gas, or other thing. Unrestricted weapon is defined by the Act as any weapon of whatever description or design which is adapted for the discharge of any noxious liquid, gas, or other thing. So that is why you have the dichotomy, because under the Firearms Act, if you were to be charged for the possession of pepper spray, which as I had earlier defined, is a noxious liquid, then in such circumstances, you could face life imprisonment. Now I know that is not likely to happen, and wisdom I would expect to prevail by any authorities involved in such a charge or prosecution, not to proceed with that. But on the face of it, you have the Firearms Act that says that which is not in sync with the Offensive Weapons Act.
Let me see if I can get Dr. Mackay in. Doc, your take on all of this, I mean, how prevalent do you think is the use of pepper spray in Jamaica, and what are your concerns in regards to what Mr. Earl just said?
I don't like the fact that the law is in conflict with itself, but to be honest, I haven't really had that many situations where persons use mace or pepper spray on someone, you know, other than security person, and so I almost never hear about it happening. And there was a recent case which was on a video that was being circulated where a police officer used it, you know, against the former police officer, but normally it doesn't really come up as an item used in Jamaica by people illegally. And it's a bit strange because it's an extremely potent item to disable someone temporarily, and I'm surprised it isn't used more often. So I was always glad that the Firearms Act spoke to it. But when you think about it, the Offensive Weapons Act almost makes it legal, so it's sort of in conflict with itself, and that needs to be addressed.
You think the law should be changed, Mr. Mackay, in that regard?
I think it needs to make a decision one way or the other. It can't speak specifically to mace or pepper spray and the Defensive Weapons Act as being legal, and then have it illegal.
Which side do you weigh on?
It's a good question. I, I'm a big believer in anything that can make somebody safer, they should have it. And because there is no present use or abuse of it, I think you should be able to carry personal protection. But the minute it starts to be used in a way that's negative, then we probably need to address it. But as it stands now, I think it should be allowed to be carried for personal protection.
Could you say it again, Mr. Mackay? I didn't hear you.
No, I said until then, I think you should be allowed to carry it for personal protection.
Okay, so you want the law to be changed in that regard. What about
it's widely carried by security officers. You know.
By what?
It's widely carried by security officers.
Yes, I wanted to get that clear from Mr. Earl. The security forces are allowed to use it, but just not the private citizens. Is that it?
Yeah, because remember what happened is that it was an order that was actually passed by the minister is actually under the Customs Act that was passed.
Yes.
And that order is the order that spoke to the circumstances in which you can import this particular substance. And it makes it clear that was in 2010 that you could go ahead and import it. The Import Prohibition Miscellaneous Goods Order 2010. And that prohibits the importation of pepper spray or mace. But I imagine security forces under that particular order are exempt. So if the minister were to give you an exemption, then in such circumstances you'd be able to do it. In the same way that firearms, the regular firearms, are illegal for importation into Jamaica, but security forces can bring it in. Once it is that they have the requisite license and exemptions to do so. So it's a similar sort of thing.
Right.
But if I could just weigh in on what you just said about whether or not the law should be changed. I am of the view, respectfully, that we should keep it as is. We should not have
possible life sentence, Mr. Earl?
As well, remember I said it's unlikely that anybody's going to be charged under the fact.
Yeah, but it's there.
Yeah, that's quite unlikely. Quite unlikely. And if that were to happen, I would imagine that what would happen is that the lawyers would raise a massive argument. And a lawyer representing anybody charged would say, hold on, court, Firearms Act preceded the Offensive Weapon Prohibition Act. And because it has preceded it, because the Firearms Act came out from 1914, and the Offensive Weapons Prohibition Act is much more recent, 2001. So, being the later act, I would certainly argue that the later impliedly, if not expressly, repeals the earlier. So that Parliament had a change of heart in relation to pepper spray. So that's how I would argue that.
But interesting.
But be that as it may, it's prohibited. It's a prohibited substance. You cannot legally import it. The regular private citizen can't legally import it in Jamaica. And my view is that we should leave it just like that, because I am not so certain that it really helps you, the pepper spray. And I think it can be more used as a weapon against you.
Let me ask Dr. Mackay to weigh in on that. What about the effects and the positives and negatives, Dr. Mackay, in light of what was said a while ago by Mr. Earl?
You have to be extremely careful using it because of wind and so on. You know, it's a little bit. It's not as simple as it may appear to how it comes out in advertisements. It doesn't really work quite as intended most of the time. When somebody sprays it at someone else, usually other persons are impacted by it. And if it's used in a closed area, then it almost certainly has an impact on a number of people. So it wouldn't really be my weapon of choice. If I could debate it with something else, I'd do it. there's too much of a strong possibility of it disabling me personally if I'm using it, or someone else that may be unintended. Once it gets going, it gets circulating in the air.
Are you agreeing? Are you agreeing, Mr. Earl, then, that it should remain as is in terms of a life sentence as a penalty?
I think that the law should, sort of come to the rest as it relates to expand on it. And I don't think it should be it should be considered a illegal substance under the Gun Control Act, because I think you should be able to carry it. But it's more the conflict I don't like, to be honest. It's not so much that I believe it's a useful weapon. It's there, and anything people can get to carry, they should carry. But I just don't like the fact that that we can have that very same thing where an officer can bring charges and the attorney can say, no. The Offensive Weapons Act justifies it. So.
In the aforementioned newspaper report, it says that a Trinidadian senator, name of Paul Richard, stated, if it saves one life, it is worth it. If it gives women hope that the authorities are hearing their cries on a daily basis, it is worth it. So he's actually winning on the side of, especially for the women who seem to be the ones that use it more. Mr. Earl, what's your view on that?
What happens if it costs one life?
If it what?
He says if it saves one life. But what happens if it costs one life? What happens if the person, the assailant, uses it against the victim, disables them, and then is able to take advantage of them,
less likely,
kill them?
What
happens in that situation?
Less likely, to use your argument earlier on, less likely that it would save a life than cost a life, wouldn't it?
No. What I'm saying is, it is the gateway towards the attack. So you disable the person, they are completely vulnerable when they are attacked with pepper spray, allowing you, for example, to abduct them and then harm them permanently. So what about when it costs a life in that situation? You see, one of the likely to cost a life, it's more likely to save a life. I don't know that it is more likely to save a life at all. Yeah, I'm saying it can be used by the assailant as an offensive weapon. That's the problem. And that's one of the reasons why a number of countries in the world, for example, Barbados, Guyana, and those places, you have Belgium, Denmark, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Sweden, Turkey, UK, that have all banned pepper spray. And I just want to say quickly that I would advocate the learning of self-defense skills. As well as, but we're out of time as well as. I want to thank you both gentlemen for joining us this morning. Have a productive day.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
JN Bank Live Online Banking is your quick and easy banking that's safe and secure. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way. The time is
7:31.
Shake it and spell it with love this Valentine's from Digicel. Download the My Digicel app and shake to collect the letters LOVE to win cash and other amazing prizes, including an exquisite diamond ring, a weekend getaway at a luxury resort, dinners for two, plus free data and credit for you and your boo. Get to shaking and spelling in the My Digicel app today. Offer ends February 27. Digicel, better together.
Where Grace Kennedy Money Service, sir. Collect and collect. That is, sir. Collect and collect. Somewhere. Any Western Union. Yeah. Grace Kennedy Money Service anniversary. Grace Kennedy Money Service. I give a chance to 3 people win $1 million each. When you send or receive, you hear this. Yeah, man, me want win. Receive or send the money. Connect and collect.
From any location or direct to bank from now until February 28th. Connecting the dots for 30 years. Subject to official rules. Visit gkmsonline.com for more info. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Where Grace Kennedy Money Service, sir. Connect and collect. That is, sir. Connect and collect.
Look out for the poor. Share a meal. Help a child with a textbook, whatever you can. If you help the poor, you are lending to the Lord, says Proverbs 19, verse 17. Let's work together to make Jamaica a gentler, kinder society. A message from the Church of the Open Bible, 12 Washington Boulevard. Join in our worship service Sundays at 8 a.m. right here on Love 101.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and we're going to take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, prep school conundrum. Ministry directive can't compel them to scrap private face-to-face classes. And then no green light yet on vaccine indemnity. And we see here that St. James sees 222%. 222% increase in murders. Wow. In the Observer, China denies subjecting U.S. diplomats to COVID-19 anal tests. Politicians have until March 2 to submit final disclosure reports for September election. And then finally, as a major headline, Chief Justice dismisses criticism of light sentence to accused gangster. Those are some of the major newspaper headlines, and have a read when you can. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question. What are the pros and cons of the use of pepper spray as a safety device in Jamaica? Please leave a comment on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. Soon come back.
But before you come back, I found out a little about Grandma Moses.
Oh, okay.
So listen up. So Anna Mary Robertson Moses, known by her nickname Grandma Moses, was an American folk artist. She began painting in earnest at the age of 78 and is often cited as an example of an individual who successfully began a career in the arts at an advanced age. Yeah,
thank you.
She was born on September 7, 1860.
Grandma Moses.
Grandma Moses.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's Marriage Models Thursday. Tune in this Thursday, February 25, inside To Have and To Hold with host Colleen Beckles and marriage models of 42 years of marital bliss, Lester and Rose Lewis. Join us as we will talk everything from dating to marriage to ministry, and we find out about their family. That's To Have and To Hold this Thursday, February 25 at 5:30 p.m. with marriage models of 42 years of marital bliss, Lester and Rose Lewis, and host Colleen Beckles on your family station, Love 101. Love 101 invites you to listen to the 171st Jamaica Baptist Union General Assembly under the theme, Keeping Faith with a Word in an Ever-Changing World, Reaffirming Identity. The opening service will commence on Wednesday, February 24 at 7 p.m. with Preacher, President Reverend Norva Rodney. On Thursday, February 25, join in at 7 p.m. for the Town Hall meeting. On Friday, February 26, listen out for an evening of thanksgiving and praise. And on Sunday, February 28 at 10 a.m., the closing service will be held with Preacher, President Reverend Norva Rodney. That's the 171st Jamaica Baptist Union General Assembly, Wednesday, February 24 through to Sunday, February 28. And it will be all here on the family station, Love 101.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Masks are effective only when used in combination with frequent hand cleaning with soap and water or alcohol-based solutions. Wear a mask that is lined with 2 or more layers. When taking it off, ensure you dispose of it properly. I'm Nigel Wilkinson from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. We're now going into the second watch, and in so doing, to note that in a recent Gleaner article, it was reported that members of the clergy in Westmoreland are being accused by Dr. Marsha Graham, the parish's medical officer of health, of breaching the Disaster Risk Management Act as it relates to the COVID-19 health and the safety protocols. Now, is such an accusation justified? If so, how widespread are such occurrences? And what are the issues and implications arising from such instances? To discuss these and other related questions, we have joining us Dr. Graham, Medical Officer of Health for Westmoreland, and Reverend Garth, Peter Garth, Chairman of the Jamaica Umbrella Group of Churches. Welcome to you both.
Morning, and welcome to you and your listeners.
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome one and all.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Doctors. Okay. All right. Let me just, before we delve into our discussion about churches and protocol breaches, let me ask you both, as persons on the ground, how bad is the recent COVID surge from your perspective, Dr. Graham? First.
Good morning again to you and your listeners. The threat of COVID-19 is an increasing one, and the numbers that we have seen over the last 2 to 3 weeks speak for themselves. And so it is that the health system is now grappling not only with the sheer number of persons who are affected or infected with COVID-19, but more particularly the numbers who have moderate to severe disease that need hospitalization, and therefore that exerts undue pressure on the need for hospital care, for oxygen and other medical support. And it is quite taxing on our healthcare workforce who have been going at this for the better part of the year. So it really is not a very pleasant time for the medical fraternity, and we really are soliciting all the support we can to see if we can flatten the curve and decrease the numbers.
Yeah, how are the hospitals in Westmoreland, Dr. Graham? How are they doing?
Well, we have the Savannah Public General Hospital in Westmoreland, and the fact of the matter is that the hospital is not only dealing with persons affected by COVID-19, but also persons with like accident, other medical conditions, and so our general occupancy tends to be higher than we want it to be. Most of the times it is in the 70 to 90 percent range. And in terms of our isolation beds, where we currently have 18, there have been times when we have been up to 100%. Currently, we are just a little below that. We are in the high 80s to low 90s in terms of occupancy. But it's a very dynamic situation, and on any given day, several persons can present with symptoms suggestive of COVID-19, and it can easily tip you over the balance. Hence the appeal for persons to take the necessary precautions to avoid infection and as much as possible to stay away from needing hospital care.
Reverend Goss, in the churches, we're hearing about the increase and the concerns in the general public. How things looking in the churches? We're not talking about the protocols as yet.
The protocols?
Not yet.
Not devastated as yet. But the fact is, there are persons that are part of the church and from community, persons who have been affected. A large number of those persons have been quarantined at home. One of the things that I want to say from the outset is that last year, March, when the Minister of Health and the Permanent Secretary, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, met with the church, she said from the outset that, and it frightened us, that the possibility is that projection could be that you have 1.4 million persons who would actually really, if tested, be positive. That was frightening, but then she went on to explain that a large number of those persons would be asymptomatic. And I raised the fact that that would be dangerous because that could mean that the entire population could get it, the seriousness of it. But I think where we are now is that the church, based on the meetings that we have, whenever we have a meeting with the PM and the epidemiologist, Westchester Carr and the CESA, we come to an agreement and we use the umbrella groups of churches to get the message out. The reality is, when you look at the amount of churches in Jamaica, it is a little difficult. Sometimes pastors don't know, they don't understand. I've even had pastors calling me from the police station because they didn't understand it, they didn't know it. And so it is very difficult and also difficult to monitor. A denomination might have 400 churches, and some of them might not get the message, via, WhatsApp or email, and they might have a breach here or there. But whenever we hear it, we try to get on top of it, so long as they are a part of the umbrella groups of churches. Even when that incident took place last year with that group, we tried relentlessly to get in touch with them.
Okay.
We got no answer.
Hold that thought right there. We're going to take a break and be right back.
You're listening to Love 101 FM, the family station. It is now 7:45.
We're working on a brighter day, you don't have to fret. You know your family secure, you don't need no stress. It's like you run a 5K, set the pace, win the race, celebrate, and you still never bust no sweat. We see we brother and we sister, this is how we heal them. Easy now, you and Guardian Life, it's a nation we're building. Many hearts, but we all want the same thing. Live secure and live easy.
Out of many one people, out of many one juice, out of many real fruit, but there ain't no substitute. We put the best fruit in, pour out enough love in, bring out the sunshine in and the true juice. This is the juice of Jamaica. Every fruit, every drop, we get a flavor. When you feel the heat, you know say you a beetroot juice with your neighbor. Out of many one juice, true juice.
Phoenix Health and Vision Center now has 2 locations. St. Anne's Bay, 65 Main Street beside the health center. And now Shop 30 Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney. You heard me right. Shop 30 Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney. The only full-service eye care center for all your designer frames and designer glasses. Plus, complete eye care. Book all your appointments now in St. Anne's Bay. Call 876-972-2388. 876-589-8327. For Falmouth and its environs, call this number 876-533-0540. Looking forward to seeing you at both locations. Phoenix Health and Vision Center. Now at Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile: cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Look out for the poor. Share a meal. Help a child with a textbook, whatever you can. If you help the poor, you are lending to the Lord, says Proverbs 19, verse 17. Let's work together to make Jamaica a gentler, kinder society. A message from the Church of the Open Bible, 12 Washington Boulevard. Join in our worship service Sundays at 8 a.m. right here on Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and we are looking at the alleged breaches of COVID protocols by some churches. And we have online Reverend Dr. Peter Gass, Chairman of the Jamaica Umbrella Group of Churches, and Dr. Marcia Graham, Medical Officer of Health for Westmoreland. Dr. Graham, in the aforementioned Gleaner article, when I introduced the topic, you reportedly said, and I quote, "Our public health officers are periodically monitoring places of worship on the weekends, and I've already gotten some reports of lapse in compliance. I've seen videos of church services where people are not wearing masks and all that," end of quote. Were you accurately quoted? And either way, could you elaborate?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
The public health officers, and I encourage everyone who actually is a part of the public health team to actually be vigilant at the places of worship, the places where the worship and other in their space, to check for COVID compliance. The fact of the matter is that persons have access to my phone number, and I have had videos sent to me. I have actually been viewing services that are held online and broadcast. And from time to time, one of the fairly common things, breach that I see, is that when persons step up to the microphone to speak, they remove their mask or they take it down below their nose, sometimes below their nose and mouth. And that allows for contamination of the space, contamination of the mask, which of the microphone, which from time to time another person comes and to the podium uses the same microphone without any sanitizing in between. So there are some breaches that are quite obvious, and it is documented because the services are broadcast.
Let's get this clear, Doc. You are not saying that they should remove their mask. They should not remove it. Are you saying that they should remove their mask or not when they go to the mask?
I'm saying that they should always wear a mask properly when they are in a public space, and that means having a mask that covers the mouth and the nose.
While
all of the studies so far that have been done show that just by normal speech, there are droplets from your mouth that are ejected into the air. And when persons shout, pray, the louder, the more vigorous the vocal activity is, the more secretions, droplets that are deposited in the air, they go farther, they are projected farther. And so it is important that persons learn to find a mask that they can tolerate, and there are different types and brands of masks, and that they practice to speak while wearing the mask so that they keep their secretions to themselves and do not contaminate the mic and other items in the atmosphere, because the podiums, the mics tend to be items of common use in the worship setting. I know that some churches are very good at doing the sanitization, and they actually clean the microphone, sanitize it in between use by different members of the worship service. And so this is not a general thing, but there are some persons who are not compliant, and it puts the rest of us at risk, and it puts a bad light on the community of faith. And so we have to try to get as many persons compliant as possible I understand Reverend Dr. Peter God's perspective, because where you don't have an active, vibrant ministers fraternal, where you don't have persons coming under the umbrella group of churches, it's hard to reach out to persons. But the fact is that the disaster risk management order is posted on the Office of the Prime Minister's website. And so we encourage persons to read the document for themselves. Page number 31 to 33, section 18 to 20 speak specifically to items related to churches, general services and burials, wedding ceremonies, and general church services.
Okay.
Thank you.
Reverend Goss, I'm sure you want to say something.
Well, one of the challenges here is that we take our lead and our guide from the health authorities, and they are normally present when we have a meeting, like with Dr. Toussaint and the Prime Minister. We have never been told that we are to use the mask when we are speaking. Evidenced by the fact that you look at the National Day of Prayer, the Prime Minister comes, microphones are taken out, they are sanitized, and the podium for every person who goes there. If you look at our national services, the ones that we had last year, and none for this year as yet, the Prime Minister and all the government officials, when they get there, Prime Minister will keep on his mask for a short time, and then he'll remove it. Or what we have been told is that the person who is going to speak, he can remove his mask. So I'm saying that this is the first I'm really hearing that somebody should speak with the mask on. And we figured that we were getting it from the top. So if we are getting it from the top, we'd follow that protocol to change microphones, sanitize, and have different ones come in. When they go to speak, they can remove the mask in the service. Now, we know that if somebody comes, for instance, if somebody comes to my church on a Sunday morning without a mask, they can't come in. We have masks, and if there's space, we will give that person a mask. However, if they say that they have a problem wearing a mask, a lot of persons are upset with me. They can't come into the service.
Right.
We would offer a word of prayer for them and send them on their way home, that they'll be able to get over the problem that they have with wearing a mask.
So the temperature check is done, the masks are required, and also the distance, physical distancing.
And also recording of me and the temperature and all that.
All right. Yeah. But let me get back to Dr. Graham. Dr. Graham, you heard a while ago what Reverend God said. Your take on that? Because he's saying it's the first time he's hearing
I want to commend those steps, because the ones you mentioned are very excellent steps. The fact of the matter is that as we move through the pandemic, we go through different phases, and we always are seeking to see how we can improve the safety of the persons that we congregate with, we associate with. There are persons who stay at home, and for some persons, especially older ones, the only time they leave home is to come for some fellowship and edification. And so we really need to try to keep this space as safe as possible. I appreciate what Reverend Dr. Gard said. The fact of the matter is that I have seen in several instances where public officials remove their mask to speak. But in those settings, he mentioned something very critical, the sanitizing in between. Because therefore, anything that might have been deposited, any droplets from that person speaking without a mask on, you remove those droplets by sanitizing in between use of a common mask. When, for instance, the minister does his press conference, he sits apart from the PS, the CMO, whoever else is there, but he also doesn't have anyone else sharing his microphone. He has a microphone that is used by himself, and he is the only person that uses that microphone.
In that case,
in a lot of worship settings, the microphone is shared, and so you really need to be sanitizing in between.
Yeah, right. In that case, it's okay to remove the mask. Just want to get that.
Encourage as much as possible if persons can keep the mask on, that they do,
even while
because
preaching.
that would offer us better protection, and we are always seeking to see to how we can better protect. So if persons can find a mask that they can tolerate and speak through, persons, I encourage them, position the mic project your voice because you're aiming to communicate to a group. Because some persons, the angle of the mic is not done optimally, and so it doesn't capture the sound and project it, and so they feel they need to remove the mask in order to be heard. I speak and address the congregation giving COVID tips every time I go for worship. I have no problem being heard. I keep my mask on. I use the mic effectively. So we ask as much as possible. If you can speak using a mask, that you practice to do so because it will offer greater protection.
Hearing you loud and clear, Dr. Grant. One final thing before we close, and we have about 2 minutes. The report also mentions concerns being raised about church services lasting for 3 hours and more, and it not being good for mask tolerance. Could it be argued, Dr. Graham, are the same concerns being raised in regards to places of employment where many persons wear masks for more than 3 hours? Your response?
Well, the fact of the matter is that we encourage persons in whatever setting they are to experiment with different types of masks to find one that they tolerate better. We also encourage mask break, but these breaks are to be taken outside of a crowded area. So you would need to move away from the corporate setting, take the mask break, sanitize your hand, and replace the mask. And so the fact of the matter is that for the workspace, you tend to have younger persons with better mask tolerance. For the place of worship, as I said, some of these persons are older, vulnerable persons. They miss the fellowship. They want to be edified in the house of the Lord. And so this is their only foray out into the public space. So they would not have had as much practice in wearing a mask as others. And I've had persons call me to say that it is not wise because persons are getting weary. They tend to migrate, stay in the congregation, and they gradually pull the mask down from over their nose and so on, and it puts them and others at risk. So we are saying this now needs to be used in terms of the
let me give Reverend God the final word.
Other persons who are vulnerable can get the benefit of corporate worship.
Let me give Reverend God the final word. Half a minute, Reverend God.
Well,
quick response.
Yes, I agree with what Dr. said. She's absolutely right. And we encourage persons who have a problem with wearing a mask to watch it on one of the platforms and to try as much as is possible to stick to the protocols. We are in deep community spread. And I think that some pastors are taking it too lightly and they need to wake up to what is happening. And so I would appeal to them, please to stick to the protocols, especially since we have been given the privilege to have the body in church, but only 15%, including the pastor.
Don't want to abuse it.
It is going to be taken away from us.
Yeah.
Right? We appealed last year. We have it. Right? We appeal to them. Stick to the protocol.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Goss and Dr. Graham. Have a productive day.
All right. Thank you again for the opportunity. Stay safe. God bless you.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. For information or to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-959627. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Miss Kathy Gale, and our guests. Please join Mr. Stokely Marshall next week as he continues to look at the issues of the day. I am Dylan Toussaint, and you back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Ibling.
Enjoy reduced sugar, reduced sodium, and gluten-free product options. With Grace, you have better choices for a better life.
The time brought to you by Grace Kennedy is
8:01. It's time for the program Forward in Faith.
God will return.